We're starting in the next 2 minutes. All right. Welcome to the first of the series of the Employability and Entrepreneurial Skills Training, our online training being organized by the Workplace Center. This is the first of the series, and I'm happy to welcome you. Happy viewing. I would like to suggest that if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to type it in the chat box and I will read your questions and answer your question. To start, how did we come about this training program? How did we decide to go into this? Having been in recruitment for about 10 years and having worked with recruitment agencies, we've seen a lot of employees lose potential jobs because they were unable to answer tricky interview questions. Or even still, some people just don't know how to conduct a job search. And so at the Workplace Center, we decided, how do we help the youth to bridge this gap? How do we teach the youth how to search for jobs, the proper way, the right way to search for jobs? How do you answer tricky interview questions? So we decided to start this online series at the Workplace Center to help you in your job search, to help you do it the right way, and to answer interview questions. So once again, I'm happy to have you. My name is Abiola Omotayo Benson, the manager corporate services of the Workplace Center. I'm happy to have you here. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to type it in the chat box. Thank you very much. So how to do a job search? The first thing I'd like to say is, how do you do a job search? The first thing you need to know when you're conducting a job search is to know that conducting a job search in itself is a job. You need to take it as an assignment. It's not something that should be outsourced to anyone to do for you. You need to take it as a full-time responsibility. How am I going to conduct this job search? What do I need to do? Think through it. Take it as an assignment. Is my CV in order? How do I send it out? And put a thought process to it. Sometimes we leave the job search, we conduct our job search so flippantly, Needless to say, some of us don't get results with our job searches. We need to take the actual activity of job searching as a job in itself. Like you wake up in the morning and you dress up to go to work, you also need to take your job search as that kind of assignment until you get the right job. Now, how do you begin to do that? First thing is you have to have your CV in place. And I take it that you will have your CV already. There will be another workshop at some point that will take care of CVs. But for the purpose of this seminar, it is assumed that you already have your CV in place. One of the things we realize is that sometimes, you just you send out your CV to any vacancy that is open, if it's for an engineering job, if it's for a nursing job, if it's for a human resource job, if it's for, you send out the same CV to so many places. It's not targeted. It's just flippant. Now, that's not the right way to search. Now, your CV needs to be tailored. Am I sending this for a human resource job? Am I sending it for a public relations job? You need to tailor your CV to the job that you're applying for. Now, there are many job postings you will find on Nairaland, there are many job vacancies. It is important that you research each job position that you are applying for. These days, I get some text messages. I have been invited for an interview tomorrow, and I'm asking myself, I didn't even apply. Which organization is this? And you do a search on the company, or you do a search on the address that they've given you to come for an interview, and you realize that it's a scam. Because, of course, they realize that many people are looking for jobs. So it's important that you don't just send out your CVs to everywhere because you've seen a vacancy or you've seen an opening. You need to do a bit of research. Remember, we said doing a job search is a job in itself. So search out the position, search out the organization, tailor your CV to meet the requirements of the job, and don't just send it out. So many a times we see CVs not properly titled, not targeted to the job. You're seeing somebody who read nursing and is applying for an engineering job, and he's not able to relate how his skills match the job that is being advertised. So it's important that you research the job and see how your resume, how your profile matches the job that is being advertised, and then you apply for it. You tailor your CV to it, having established that it is not a scam advertisement. Are we clear on that? Again, please feel free to type in any questions you may have, and I'll be happy to take your questions. All right. The second thing I'd like to say is on the importance of a cover letter. Cover letters do make a lot of difference. Sometimes I receive CVs titled CV. The subject of the email is just CV. There's no cover letter, it's just an attachment. That does not make sense. If you're going to, especially if it's a blind application, it's important that you do write a cover letter that showcases how your profile, how your skills are a perfect match for the job that is being advertised. You get a job, a CV that says that is titled CV2, CV3, CV4, and you're wondering, what am I supposed to do with it? There's no cover letter, there's nothing to go with it. Cover letters do make a difference. Cover letters do make a difference. So I would like to say to you that if you are sending out a If you're sending out a blind application, please do not forget to include a cover letter. A cover letter that shows the position you're applying for and how your skills are a perfect match for the position. Cover letters make a difference. Always include a cover letter. Always include a cover letter in every application that you submit. Are we clear? Do we have any questions so far? How do you write a cover letter? Interesting. Well, apart from saying that there are many templates you can find online, to suggest, you know, that you can follow that can guide you. You get many templates online on how to write a cover letter. You will get many templates online on how to write a cover letter, and I'm sure that will be a perfect guide. But importantly is to state your name, your background in terms of I'm a graduate of biology, and having studied biology, I am process oriented, and I believe that the analytical skills I have gathered having studied biology would make me a good fit for this position, which requires analytical skills. I have a 2-year experience in working as a customer service personnel, and I believe that that will be right for the job. So it's important that your cover letter states how your skills match with the job that is being advertised. All right. Okay, with regards to how to write your CV, I would say that there will be another workshop that will deal with CV writing. I see a lot of questions around how to write a good CV. We will have another workshop that deals exactly with that. Okay, so just to summarize everything I have said, doing a job search is a job in itself. You don't outsource it. It's something that you should do for yourself. Research the company that you're applying to, understand the requirements of the position. Don't just apply blindly because you've seen an application. And remember, cover letters do make a difference. That will be our first part of the training, which is the how-tos of a job search. This is going to be a continuous series where we'll be treating different aspects at different times. And I'm going to move on to answering tricky interview questions. I find that one very interesting because that's something that each time I sit at an interview panel, I see different responses that makes me realize that this is an area where we need to help our youth so that they don't miss opportunities that they don't necessarily have to miss. The very first one, tell me about yourself. That's usually the opening for every training or for every interview session. Tell me about yourself. And you hear answers like, my name is Abiola Omotayo Benson. I hail from Ikorodu State. My mother is a trader. My father is a lawyer. My husband, I have 3 children. I'm the seventh of 9 children, and you hear all sorts of things. Well, for an interview, that's a no-no. First things you need to understand is that's a blank check that has just been given to you to sell yourself. Once you're asked that question, tell me about yourself. You need to think to yourself, what is the employer looking for when he is asking me this question? One, the employer is looking for 3 things basically. Your background. So you studied biology, you studied physics, you studied medical sciences. Your background, your experience. What has your experience been? And how is it a match for the job that is being advertised? So it shouldn't take you more than 2-3 minutes Any information that is not relevant to the job at hand needs to be needs to stay out of that spiel that you're giving. For instance, it's not necessary to say that I'm the first of 10 children. However, if you're saying something like being the first of 10 children, I have a sense of responsibility, having cared for my younger ones, and you're able to tie it to the job that is being applied for, then it makes sense. But why does the interviewer need to know that you are the last of 10 children, or you are from Ikorodu, or you're born in the state? What is the relevance of that to the application you're making? So when you're asked, tell me about yourself, what you're saying in essence is, sell yourself to me. Tell me why I should hire you. Tell me that thing about you that is striking. Tell me that thing about you that will make me go on with this discussion. So important, cut out the jargon. Cut out everything that is irrelevant to the application being made. Focus on your work experience. Focus on your background. Focus on the skills that you have that are relevant to the position that you have applied for. Do we have any questions on that? Okay. Another one I find really interesting when people ask, what are your strengths? I see a lot of candidates. They're so happy to reel out their strengths. But guess what's coming after that? You know, what are your weaknesses? And you find out at this point, people stutter, or they just blank out, or they go, I don't have any weaknesses, or none that I can think of. You must be made in heaven and perfect. The reality is, no employer is expecting perfection. So to say that you do not have any weaknesses might come across as an exaggerated, estimation of yourself. What is important is for you to see, first of all, what weaknesses do you have that could be seen as strengths. For instance, if you're somebody that takes your time in doing things, so you're able to say that sometimes I'm slow to learn, but when I get a hold of what I'm learning, I'm very careful, and my work is as close to accurate as possible. I'm almost on 100%, and you do not need to check my work over and over again. I do not need to be supervised. Or you can say that sometimes under pressure, I'm not able to multitask. The key to doing this is to ensure that you do not leave your employer thinking, okay, so what does that do to me? You should be able to show the prospective employer what you have done to be able to harness those weaknesses by saying, okay, so I've taken a time management program, I've taken a pressure, managing pressure program, and one of the things that I have started to do is to separate my priorities from the things that are urgent, from the things that I absolutely have to do now. So it's important to leave your employee with a sense of, I know what my weaknesses are, but I know also what I'm doing about it. The important thing that the employer is trying to find out is, how aware are you of yourself? How aware are you of yourself? What's your estimation of your own strength? How have you done a SWOT analysis of your own self? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How well do you know yourself? And this is one of the foundations of emotional intelligence, self-awareness. How well are you in touch with your own self? So important to note is it doesn't augur well, or it doesn't rub off, or when you say you don't have any weaknesses, because you and I know that that is not true. It's important to say those weaknesses that are not relevant to the job that you are applying for. So, for the purpose of this discussion, you are applying for a customer service job in a pressure environment. You don't want to say at that kind of interview that you don't work well under pressure. That will raise a red flag. So it's important that you know what the requirements of the job are and be in touch with your own self. Have a honest assessment of what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are so that you'll be better prepared to challenge, to answer the questions. Remember, the employer is not expecting you to be perfect. What the employer is looking to see is that you are aware of yourself and you're doing something to improve yourself in the area of your weakness. Is that clear? All right. So the next question I'll be treating today is, tell me, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Interestingly, I would imagine that candidates will do better at this question. But what we've seen over and over again is that it comes as a shock to people when they're asked that question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? With every question that you're asked at an interview, it's important to ask yourself, what is the employer looking for with this question that has been asked? When you are asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? What employers are looking for is a sense of vision. What employers are looking for is a sense of ambition, is a sense of purpose. But a lot of times, you see that you get answers like, I want to start my own business. All sorts of interesting answers. Well, if you want to start your own business, how does this job help you? I mean, because for the employer, this is just a walk, it's just a passing through, it's just a stepping stone, and not necessarily you won't devote yourself to it. Typically, you need to be able to show that your employer that you want to grow with the organization. You want to, as opportunities present, to be able to rise through the ranks. You want to be able to, in 5 years' time, have developed your skills and competencies to be a better supervisor in your line of business or in your line of profession. Typically, those are the answers that you need to work around. Answers that show that you are futuristic and you can grow with the organization. Or so you find somebody say, I want to take your position in the next 5 years. That's a statement of boldness. It's a statement of courage, and it's a statement that shows that you're bold and you want to rise through the ranks. Importantly, show that you have a sense of vision. Show that you have a sense of purpose, and that in taking up this position, it will help you to acquire the skills and competencies and also give back from what you have gathered over the years to be able to become a better employee, to be able to become a better um, person in your line of profession. That will be our tricky interview questions for today. And I'm going to be taking some of your questions at this time. Okay. So when you are asked at an interview, do you have any questions? What kind of questions should you ask? Well, the first thing I always tell people is never say you don't have any questions, because it's important that you've done a bit of research about the company and you ask intelligent questions. To say that you don't have any questions would suggest that you're not a person of deep thoughts, or you're not a person of research. So you may want to ask questions about what the future plans of the organization are. If you're considered for this job, what are the indicators for success? You may want to ask questions about, the management style. You may want to ask about questions around what happened to the last person in the position. What are the potentials for growth in that position? So it's always important to ask questions, and not about pay, especially about when it's the first interview. So ask questions that border around management style, the growth opportunities for the company. How do they stay ahead of competition? What's their competitive advantage? You know, those are the kind of questions that you need to ask at an interview. All right. Would you have any other questions? I'll be happy to take them at this time. Okay. Well, you can still send in your interview. You can still send in your questions, and I'll be happy to respond to them. In the meantime, for as many that are signed up onto this webinar, you'll get a discount on our upcoming Skills Up program that is holding on the 14th to the 18th of March 2016. You will be getting a 10% discount for signing up for this free online course. And you will get a 10% discount, and we'll be happy to receive you at the Skills Up program that will be addressing in detail some of the things we've talked about today. We'll be covering the basics we'll be covering interviewing skills. We'll be covering personal accountability. It's a 1 week program that will touch on different areas of employability and entrepreneurial skills. I look forward to welcoming you at the event. Please feel free to still type in your questions, and I'll be happy to respond to them. Thank you very much for attending. Have a good day. Bye.